Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I am your host, Brett Gilliland. I've got Joe Sena with me. Joe, how we doing?
How we doing? Thanks for having me. I don't know how successful I am, but I'm happy I'm on the show.
You are, well, let's see. We've been trying to get this booked. I think my assistant, Robin, has either worked with you or your people for probably a year to year and a half, man. We were what we call patiently persistent.
Wow.
But that's what you got.
That's impressive. I can't get my kids to wait for me for a few minutes. You waited a year. This is unbelievable.
Well, we're excited to have you, man. I love your story and all the things that you're doing. You are the founder and CEO of Spartan, which is the world's largest obstacle race and endurance brand. Obviously entrepreneurial stuff, the speaking, all sorts of stuff that you're doing. And we'll dive into that today. But man, I'm really excited to have you. And what I do on every podcast is a very open-ended question, but what has helped make you the man that you are today?
I would say work ethic. I would say, the neighborhood I grew up in, it oozed out of that neighborhood. If you didn't have a hustle, if you weren't up early, if you weren't making it happen, from bagels being buttered early in the morning, trucks starting at 5 a.m., guys mixing cement. So you either had it or you got left behind.
Got it. And what part of the country was that?
That was Queens, New York.
Queens, New York. I like it. And where are you at right now? Where physically are you sitting?
Right now I'm in Florida, sitting we have an office in Florida, one in London and one in Boston.
Oh, very cool. Well, very nice. Well, when you look at all the stuff we could chat about today, obviously you got a book coming out too, Extreme Balance. You wrote with an MMA fighter, but when you look back at Spartan and the journey you've been on, what have you learned the most in the last, call it 5 years, right through the pandemic and all the stuff that we're doing now that really probably rocked your guys' business model when everything shut down? So what have you learned in those last 5 years?
I learned most companies don't make it. They might succeed for a moment in time, but most companies, when you look at the data, don't make it. And I would say the difference between making it, lasting, and not is just not quitting. And it's the same with a job. It's the same with running 100 miles. It's the same with a marriage. You just don't quit. But Joe, we don't have any money. It's not that we want to quit. We can't pay. We didn't have any money either. Our business model was thrown out the window. 45 countries got shut down. No one could put on a race. Races, I was told I could put on. I could put on races in certain locales around the world. People bought tickets only to find out the night before that some local politician changed his mind. You couldn't get a worse scenario. We should not exist as a company. We ran out of money 5 times over. We completely pissed off every customer. The ones that weren't pissed off, we invited to go do a new race, which got canceled in the last 24 hours. After they bought tickets and hotel rooms and everything, you couldn't make it up. If you tried to kill an event business, this would be the perfect blueprint.
So how do you do that though, right? There's the logical side of I just don't quit, but how, man? I mean, because I'm sure there were dark days, and it's like, holy shit, how am I going to pay my bills and feed my family and do all that stuff? I mean, how do you just continue to fight every single day?
You got to have a great team. You've got to have vendors that are willing to work with you. You got to have customers that hang on and believe in it. And it's not every customer. There's ones that still want to kill us. But the bulk of them and the bulk of the vendors and the bulk of our staff believe in the mission, and they hung in there. And you stretch payables, and you try to raise money, and you make payroll somehow, and you cross your fingers that people are going to sign up for races tomorrow. And I wanted to go to bed more than I wanted to be awake. And I'm a pretty motivated guy, but it was just, I just want to go to bed. I'll deal with tomorrow. Yeah. And then when you finally look like there's a glimmer of hope, and you've made it, right? You've made it far enough along that this is going to work. The Wall Street Journal bankruptcy section calls and they want to do a cover story. And it's like, are you guys kidding? Are you just pissed off? Is the universe just pissed off that I made everybody do burpees all these years? And this is just like, so, but we didn't quit. We didn't quit. And we are much closer to the end than the beginning.
I love it. Where did the thing Spartan come from? Where did the idea, the name, all that stuff?
Yeah, so my mom back in the 70s in Queens, people did not have a very healthy lifestyle, lots of cigarette smoking and cheese and cannolis and meats and very unhealthy lifestyle. And her mom was sick. My grandmother was sick in the early 70s. My mother walked into a health food store with her sister, met a yogi who was probably 70 or 80 years old, just landed at JFK Airport from India. And he convinced my mother and her sister at that moment to meditate and to become vegan and to start practicing yoga. And for whatever reason, this guy believed in long distance running as well as a way to test and build resilience of the mind. And so my mom pivoted her life. She tried to rope my sister and I and the family into this new lifestyle, which we wanted no part of because there was no Whole Foods back then or yoga. Right. Like none of it made any sense. She was a crackpot. This was stupid. Oh, you don't want us to put suntan lotion on because it's unhealthy? We can't get a microwave because we have to take cold showers? Like, this is so stupid. My mother's a nutcase. and now everything she's
ahead of her time.
Everything she said is mainstream. Everything. Don't use underarm deodorant. It's got aluminum in it. It's bad. That's underarm deodorant. Come on, Mom, stop. Yeah. So she pushed it. I pushed back. Most of us in the family, my parents got divorced. Nobody wanted to listen to her, but she did find her tribe of people that did buy into it. She moved to Ithaca, New York, dragged my sister and I with her because Ithaca was much more open-minded, lots of professors attached to Ithaca College or Cornell University. And then when I was about, I don't know, late 20s, I was sitting on a trading desk on Wall Street, probably feeling the way she was feeling when she walked in that health food store in the 70s. And I thought, I'm going to go do some hot yoga and I'm going to start running some stairs and I'm going to start doing some long distance running and I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables and I'm not drinking. So like drinking's for the birds. And so, yeah, my life after all those years of her pushing, then she died. And it was after that I took on this thing that she was trying to convince me of. And really it's Spartan is that. It's everything she pitched, but with a cool helmet and a red cloak. The guy underneath is a yogi.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? What a cool story, man. Thanks for sharing. So how do you then take that idea of, all this stuff, right, that your mom taught you, which I'm always fascinated by these things, is it's one thing to have an idea. It's one thing to get a few buddies around and like, oh yeah, let's go to the park and run on Saturdays and we'll, have some fun doing it. But to turn it into a global brand of, the world's largest obstacle race.
I'm a big believer. I coined a term that we should all use: fire, ready, aim. I don't sit around and get ready and aim and then maybe never fire. I fire first and figure it out along the way. And so make an announcement. We're going to put on a race. I don't know how the hell we're going to do it. I don't know how many people are going to be there or not, but we got a date on the calendar. We got a location. Now let's work backwards from that date and make this thing work. And so that's what I did 25 years ago. And sure enough, it didn't work. And I iterated and I changed and I twisted and I turned and I kept doing it. And I just couldn't get it right. And in 2010, after 9 or 10 years of messing around, trying to put on races, trying to convince people to come do something hard, right, I was going to quit. The financial crisis had occurred in 2009. I had a family now. I had kids. It was irresponsible. I'm blowing all this money on these races. I got to lie to people and tell them they're coming to a barbecue, not to a race, because they don't want to come.
Yeah.
And I decided I'll take one more stab at it. I'll change the name to Spartan because at that time it was called Peak. I owned peak.com, peak.com. Anyway, I took one more stab at it, called it Spartan, changed the format, shortened the distance, added barbed wire, all the things I was against, and it worked.
Yeah.
700 people showed up.
So it looks like my research here says more than 1 million annual global participants and 200 events across more than 40 countries. So walk us through an event. What's somebody doing in a Spartan event?
The gun's going to go off. You're at the starting line. You're running. You probably face a 5 or 6 foot wall you've got to get over. You run a little further. There's probably some waist deep, creek that you're going through, some cold water. Now your shoes are wet. It's no big deal, but for whatever reason, It drives us nuts, right? Running some more. Now you're crawling under barbed wire, not just once, but maybe 5 times. Then you're seeing a rope climb. Anytime you miss an obstacle, there's a penalty. So you're attempting them to the best of your ability. And by hook or by crook, somehow you're coming out the other side and jumping over fire to the finish line. Now, in the early days at the finish line, I used to have 2 gladiators standing there, and they had giant bugle sticks. And so here you were. This was the biggest thing you ever did in your life. You trained for it. You went to bed early. You gave up wine. You didn't eat cookies. And you finally get to the finish line, and there's these 2 guys that are stopping you from crossing the finish line. They're pounding you. They're pushing you back. And it was epic. It was awesome. But the lawyers got involved, and we couldn't do that. So that's a race. There's different distances. There's 3 miles, 8 miles, 13 miles. You could go 26 miles. You can go 100 miles. We've got all different distances around the world. We're actually going to host 1,100 events this year. Many of them exactly what I just described, but then there's a bunch that are held at gyms, and they're smaller events. It's a different product we call DECA, but it energizes people and gets them going. And we're operating in 45 countries, 1.3 million participants this year. Over 10 million have crossed the finish line to date, and I'm still standing somehow.
I love it. Freaking awesome, man. What risk are you happy, even risk, or would you have that aha moment? Like I think my aha moment was in 2003 when I hired my first staff person, and it was going to be probably 50 to 70% of my income at the time. And I somehow convinced my wife that this was a good idea. And that was a defining moment for me, right, in my business. And again, that's now 21 years ago. And I haven't looked back without staff, and couldn't do what we do without an amazing team. And I'm sure you'd agree with that. But do you have anything like that for you, that there was that defining moment that changed the trajectory of your life and your business?
Yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of them in my life, but specific to Spartan and the last 24 years, I think that moment was the one I just described, which was that first race under the Spartan moniker. When 700 people showed up, I happened to have a guy with me from Discovery Channel. And he said, "Do you see what's happening here?" I said, "What's happening?" I had a lot of logistics on my mind.
No, I don't actually. But...
Yeah. What's happening? And he said, "Those people are transforming as they come across the finish line. They're different people. Look at that." And he had a different eye than I had, because his job was to run around for Discovery and figure out what was a good television show, what wasn't, before they actually invested money. And I studied it with him, and it was like, oh my God, this is transformational. These people might as well, this is the Olympic Games for them,
Yeah.
And a lot of us, when we get a little older, we can't go play soccer if we never played soccer. We can't go play football if there's not a lot of options for us. You can go ride a bike, you can certainly go for a run, but this feels like, rugby and Red Bull and the Olympics all tied up into one. And that was the moment. That was the moment that changed everything.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about this before, but just the power of finishing something hard. So whether it's a Spartan race or it's something at work that was difficult, that we just don't give up, right? We step outside of that comfort zone. What happens when we don't finish the job?
Well, the answer is going to be much more prevalent and much more impactful when you're young and don't finish the job than when you're older. But surprisingly, the human brain marks that moment where you quit. And the more you quit, the more gaps the neuroscientists can see on the physical brain that causes or makes it even more tempting to quit again. When you finish hard things, it leaves a track on the brain, again, noticeable by the scientist, neurosurgeon, and those tracks make it more likely that you'll finish future hard things. So if you're not feeling it and you're exhausted, which is just the definition of doing anything hard, you're going to be tired. That's the deal. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be feeling it. You're going to want to quit. There's a biological reason to continue. Like you're going to put an imprint on your brain that's going to determine your future outcomes.
Yeah. So getting outside that zone, brain tattoo, whatever you want to call it. I heard you talk about this on Joe Rogan. You were on his podcast, and you said, what if everyone exercised and then kind of finished that?
Yeah, if everybody exercised, I think we'd be better people. We'd get along with each other. It takes the edges off, right? It dulls those sharp edges that we have when we sweat. We get our heart rates up. I had 8 dogs on our farm in Vermont, and every once in a while I leave the dogs home because my wife and I got to do something. I'm running my business, whatever. If those dogs were inside and they didn't get their run in, on the farm, they wanted to kill each other. They ate the furniture. They destroyed the house. They were like crazy people. Could you imagine if we had given them keyboards and they could actually comment on social? They would have been nutcases. Yeah. But when they get outside and they get dirty and they're breathing and they're sweating, and their dogs don't sweat, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're just a better people to be around.
Yeah. Well, the endorphins, right? All the science behind it too is obviously better off. So when you look at the brain, how do we control that to where negative self-talk can happen, right? I talk all the time with people. I think we all have a roommate up here, and that roommate can tell us really bad things, or that roommate can tell us really good things. How do you help other people? How do you help yourself? How do you stay positive and eliminate the negative self-talk or the self-defeating thinking?
By the way, it's even worse than that. We have a 1-bedroom up there, the brain, and we've got like 12 roommates, and they're all negative.
They're all suck.
Yeah, they're all stuffed in that 1 bedroom. And so the human brain, I didn't know this, but the human brain is designed to get us to quit. It doesn't want us to go to the gym. It expends too much energy at the gym, and it doesn't want that threat. It doesn't want to eat the salad because there's not enough calories there. I'd rather have a cannoli or a piece of cheesecake because I don't know if I'm going to be out on the plains on a 25-mile survival hike, right? Like, so our brains are designed for 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, where you couldn't expend energy, where you might freeze to death outside. You might melt in the desert. You might not have enough water. The reality is today we don't need those circuit breakers. We don't need that. What we need is the brain to follow along with doing the hard things. So how do you make that shift? You make it more uncomfortable to not do the thing, right? So an example would be, I tell you that tomorrow I'm running 5 miles. Now tomorrow comes, I'm gonna be a fraud if I don't do it, right? Like, so I put myself out there. There's Sun Tzu, right? The art of war. He says, if you want your men, your army to win, you've got to have their backs against the wall. And so every chance you can get to put your back against the wall so that you're forced to put a date on the calendar. I committed 4 days ago to do a marathon on September 9th. I'm not ready. I train every day, but I'm not ready for it. So, but I said, all right, I'm in. So now I'm screwed. I've got to do a bunch of work, right? So the work started 2 days ago. And tonight, I already worked out this morning. I don't feel like running again tonight, but I have no choice because September 9th is coming, with or without me. Yep. The other thing you could do is lie to yourself. So, I'm not feeling it later. I don't want to go on that run. So what I tell myself, I learned this from a lot of Olympians, is, all right, rather than running 10, we're just going to run 1 mile. Just going to get 1 mile done. 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 4, 4 turns into 8. Screw it, I'll knock out the last 2, I'll get my 10 done. So many Olympians said to me, I don't feel like riding my bike 5 hours. I don't feel like rowing the rowboat for 7 hours. I don't feel like doing these things. And so I tell myself, we're just going to do a little bit. Let's just get sneakers on, right? And once you do that, and I've done it a lot in my own life, my own brain, it's just easier to get going. You got to get going.
Yeah. I think people are guilty. I know I am, of like, all right, maybe I've not been doing great in my exercise, but now next week I'm going to start with 7 workouts. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then it's like, dude, you're not going to do that. You're just not. So how do you overcome that? Doing exactly what you just said?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what I just said. I think you got to have, look, I talk to countries about how they can get their constituents healthy at scale and at pace, fast. And it's not with a book, and it's not with a podcast, and it's not with a conference. You've got to put dates on there. Like you and I in college would not do the work if the paper wasn't due. You and I on a construction site would not do the work if there wasn't a foreman there and it threatened. Like, you have to have consequences. Otherwise, we're not going to do the work. Most of us, 0.1% of us. I'm a nutcase. I'm waking up early anyway and I'm doing the workout, right? There's a tiny little percentage of us that does it. But for most of us, you've got to have a threatening situation on the other side or you're not going to do it.
Yeah. What are the no miss items? If I followed you around for 3 or 4 days, with the camera, what am I seeing that you're doing day in and day out without fail?
Yeah, I'll get up 5. I don't really like to get up before 5 a.m., but I get up at 5. Going downstairs, I'm drinking a big glass of water or 2. Usually put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. Lately, I've been throwing some cayenne pepper in. I get in an ice tub or take a cold shower, depending on where I am in the world. I'm going to get my workout in. My workout's got to be an hour to an hour and a half. No, I'm not missing that no matter what. And then so now I've earned my breakfast. I eat my breakfast. I go to work. I work all day. I'm a lunatic when it comes to work. I love work. And I go to bed early. I don't drink. I don't waste time. Yeah, I mean, and I just had an influencer come live with me for 3 days. He lasted 1.
I think I saw that. Weren't they like passed out and vomiting or something too? They just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
What's bed early? What's that look like?
I'm in bed no later than 10. I mean, sleeping out cold by 10. So that means I'm in bed probably 9:30. Yeah. If there are people over and there's like a party going on in my house or whatever, I'm cleaning up dishes at 6:30. My wife's yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" People are like, I don't really care about that. Like, I'm going to optimize my own life, and I'm not going to worry about how people feel staying over late at the expense of my health and I'm just not doing it.
So you'll just leave the party and go upstairs and go to bed?
Probably 5,000 times in my life.
Like, I'm out. Pull the Houdini, or you just go. You're just out.
I just go. I'll see you tomorrow.
Can't stay up and say goodbye.
And I'm the first one up, and everybody else is like sleeping still, and I'm getting all my stuff done before everybody even wakes up.
Yeah. What do you do when you get bad news?
I'm really good with bad news. I'm very, very fortunate that I have ADD. And as soon as I get bad news, within 15 seconds, 99% of the time, within 15 seconds, I forgot what I was just upset about. I'm on to something else. Now, I do have to attack the problem if it's a problem. And I don't, fiddle fuck around with it. Like, I get right to it and just solve it. I like problems.
Yeah.
I like problems. I like being put to work. Like, all right, we got this issue. This hurricane just rolled through. Your bridge which is a true story, your bridge got wiped out. Water's about to enter the house. There are 1,000 trees down on your front lawn. Let's get to work.
Yeah, just take action.
Yeah. It's nice because then you know exactly what you have to do, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a great saying in the Korean War. There was a group of Marines that were completely surrounded and out of ammo. And the leader says, well, at least we know where the enemy is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could find something good in anything.
So the people you're around and you get to surround yourself with and you get to impact and help, what are you learning most? What is a common theme going on in the world right now that you're happy about? And what's the common theme going on around the world right now that really worries you?
I mean, everybody talks about World War III and, oh my God, this country, depending on who gets elected, country's over. It doesn't even faze me because I reflect back on like images, whether fake images or real image of like the world and what it used to be, a civil war, World War I, World War II, like polio, building a railroad across the United States. Like I got like clothes on that fit me. This is climate controlled. This room, I'm talking to you on a screen. Like, are you kidding me? There's planes that fly at 30,000 feet, and as we have Wi-Fi, and my kids are healthy, and like, how could I complain about anything? It sucks that we blow each other up. You know, it sucks that what's going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East, that's a disaster. But like, we've been killing each other since the planet was formed.
Yeah.
I'd like it to end, but we're flawed. You know, maybe we need to get out of the kitchen and go run around a little more.
Yeah. You practice gratitude?
I'm very grateful. I'm a very grateful person. And I think when you do hard things, you become more grateful. Hey, Joe, how was your flight? One answer could be it was terrible. The Wi-Fi didn't work. The stewardess spilled coffee on my lap. The other answer is the plane landed. Plane did not have to land, but it landed. Did not. Right? So like people that yell at me, I don't believe you don't fly first class and you don't business class and get your upgrades. I'm like, really? In the scheme of things, I'd like the plane to land. I don't really care about the other stuff.
Right. Just need it to land and get me to where I'm going. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I need. What would you say is the thing that you believe the most about yourself that allows you to be successful?
I guess, knee-jerk reaction on that one, never been asked that before, would be this too shall pass. I just, everything just works its way out somehow. That doesn't mean I'm nonchalant about it. It just doesn't eat me up.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I hear you talk, here's what I'm experiencing is somebody that doesn't let the negative bother them, that doesn't have the pity party, that doesn't sit around and feel sorry for themselves, that has trained, I believe it's training, correct me if I'm wrong, we can debate this, but you have trained your brain to know that bad shit's going to happen, and that's okay. It's how we respond, and it's what we do with it. So when you hear me say that stuff about what you're saying, how do you talk to the person listening to this podcast right now that says, whatever, guys? Because I believe exactly what you believe, actually. But whatever. You don't understand my situation. You don't understand how I'm in this dark hole right now. You don't get it.
I grew up next to a wise guy. He was the head of the Banana organized crime family. Big house, cars. They dropped money off at his house every day. Like, he had everything. And he said to me one day, he said, Joe, if you put your problems on the table and I put my problems on the table, you will take yours back. So that really stuck with me. Like, he's got problems. He's got the big house. He's got the wife, all the cars, the kid. He's got everything. He's got problems. So like that person that you described that's complaining, like they have no fucking idea. But I tell people all the time, you want to switch? I guarantee you do not want to switch. Guarantee.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I love that too, man. But you seem so chill about it.
Well, I got two choices, right? I could sit and dwell in it and complain about it. And there was a moment in my life up in Vermont, there was a moment in my life where I did sit and complain about it to anybody that would listen. And then one day I couldn't even believe it because it's not who I am. I said, nobody cares. Nobody, like, it's not doing anything, but you're playing this tape over and over and over about whatever was going on in Vermont at the time. And no one cares. It's not moving you forward. It certainly doesn't make you look good. It's not attractive, right? So I just shut it off.
Yeah. What to go back to when you said you work out for an hour? What am I seeing in that workout? So I'm 46. What are we doing from a standpoint of mobility, flexibility, strength, endurance? What are we doing?
I pay close attention to any kind of tweak or anything I feel, thanks to my mother's yoga practice years ago. So I will work on things if I feel anything. And I've always, knock on wood, I've always been able to work something out, some kind of issue. If something is bothering, if a calf is bothering me, a foot is bothering something, I'm still working out. But all right, maybe we're doing an hour and a half of pull-ups, or, I just move to another part of the body and work through it. I tend to get, and I'm not suggesting what I'm about to suggest, but I tend to get on these kicks that last about 3 years. And for 3 years, I do the same thing every day, so like a maniac. You should not do that, but that's what I do. And so for 3 years, I carried around a 42-pound kettlebell everywhere I went. For 3 years, I did 300 burpees every morning, wherever I was. For 3 years, I got on the Airdyne bike, if it was available to me, and I did 300 calories every morning. My latest kick, and I'm probably 7 or 8 months in on this, is a mini Murph. So I do a 3 to 4 mile run. I do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 100 reverse lunges with a twist. And I got a little more running after that. And that's my morning, every morning.
It'd take me all day to do 100 pull-ups.
It's like eating an elephant, right? One bite at a time.
Yeah, that's right. Tell us about this new book, Extreme Balance. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Ben Askren, famous wrestler, became MMA fighter. He was a guy that fought Jake Paul, so he had a little bit of a famous moment there. Big thinker, and it goes right to the heart of all the questions you've asked, which is like, is there one way? If we listen to influencers, if we read books like, this is the way to be successful, this is the way to be a great wrestler, this is the way to do whatever, you fill in the blank. And he argued with me before we wrote it, that like there's multiple ways, and it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and one guy could do it this way, one woman could do it that way. So the book puts those questions out there and really gets you thinking. Like certainly too much recovery, too much relaxation, you're not getting anywhere. But then there's people that talk about how important recovery is. Too much heart. Like I was with a Stanford wrestler 3-4 days ago. Huge guy, huge physically monster. You'd look at him and say, how could you have lost any? It looked like the Marlboro Man, the mustache, the whole. He said, I trained too much. He goes, reflecting back on it now, I overtrained. I was just doing too much. I wish somebody would have talked to me. So the book really gets you to question, are you too extreme in one way?
Yeah. So when I talk about work-life integration versus work-life balance, let's debate that. So extreme balance, I hear. So I always say there isn't work-life balance. Would you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
No, my work-life integration stems from those younger years in the neighborhood where I remember specifically one woman, a mom, they owned a tow truck company. And if I went over their house, she was making pasta sauce. And she was doing calls for her tow trucks, the family's tow trucks, on the radio while she was making the sauce. And the father was coming in, the kids were driving, and so it was always same in my house. My dad was in a trucking business, so it was fully integrated into the life. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I wish my house. I mean, my family would probably say it's fully integrated, and Joe never turns it off, but it seemed even more integrated in the old days with the dial phones on the wall and everybody, you know what I mean? It's a little more like you get to take your laptop and bring it over to one area of the house and separate yourself. But workers were coming. I guess my wife would say it's pretty integrated. People are over the house all day, every day, and she never knows who's walking in next. So, yeah.
Understanding supportive spouse, which we all need. So we'll do that. So last question for you. What advice would you give yourself maybe 10 years ago? You wake up now, you know this to be true. What advice would you give?
I would say patience. I got a great friend who's now managing, call it $10 billion and maybe more. And I would say when I look at him, he's wildly successful, financially successful. He's just a very, very patient guy. And I've never had patience. Let's do it now. Let's get it done. Let's rush. And I'm learning as I get older, the tortoise really does win. So,
love it. That's awesome. Any other ideas you could share, or if not, we could talk about where to find more of Joe DeSena.
I got too many ideas. I think every kid out there should join the military, at least for a minute, and just learn how to make their bed with those crisp corners and just get their shit together. I think everybody should take a cold shower or a cold plunge every day. I think the body needs a little shock. By the way, last thing before I'll tell you where to find me. If we were doing this podcast and it was 1,000 years ago, I'd be saying to you in this podcast, we need more penicillin, we need more couches and more Netflix. But it's not 1,000 years ago. We have too much, right? The pendulum has swung too far, kind of like the book describes. So find me at Real Joe DeSena on Instagram. I have no idea on the other channels, but you could shoot me an email, joe@spartan.com. And if it's a short email, I will respond. I cannot read 4-page emails.
It's so funny. My people at work, we know that. I can't. I check out. If it's more than like 3 sentences, I'm out.
Yeah.
Somebody better send a short message. But, well, hey, and all you got to do is stay persistent, and you have a great conversation with you. And we will put all this in the show notes. We'll put the book. Can we order the book yet, or we have to wait a little bit?
I could get you actually get your book if you wouldn't mind. Shoot me an email with your address, one address or 20 addresses. I'll get the publisher to send out a bunch of books. It's coming out soon, but I'm happy to send them around.
Awesome. I appreciate it, my man. Great having you on the Circuit of Success podcast, and thanks for all you're doing, man. You're making a difference in the world.
One last thing. All your listeners, anybody you want, your family, friends, your enemies. Free tickets. It's on me for any one of our races, anywhere you want.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I will look that up and we'll get a little crew together.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.